vanished.
12 years on, do you know where he went? This is Missing Live. Once again, we're asking for your help to find just some of the hundreds of thousands of people currently missing in the UK.
We've had a fantastic start to the week and we've got some more great news for you in a moment. But as always, if you know anything about the cases coming up on today's programme, please pick up the phone. The police and missing people are here live with us all morning. The number to call is 0500 700 700.
And we keep saying that your calls make a difference. They really do make a difference. Terry is here. Paul Hopkins, we had an appeal for him. He's been found by his family. What happened?
Exactly. Yesterday it was a fantastic result. We had a call in here to the charity. The police looked at the information and actually passed the information to the family. So the family decided they'd head down to Brighton, where the information came from, and believe it or not, found him within a couple of hours. So it's fantastic.
So that was a sighting which was reported because of this programme then?
Exactly. As a result of the appeal, we got a call to the charity, information came through and the family acted on it.
And that's what happens, is it? When people do call up, you take every call and you pass that on to police?
Exactly. We take every call, look at all the information that comes in, share that with police where the relevance is. Police might look into it, or in this case, pass to the family, and they might be able to do something themselves.
And just briefly, more good news as well. Tamara Williams, she's been found. Tell us about her.
Yes, we know Tamara Williams is no longer missing, and that's a fantastic result. We can't really say very much because of our confidentiality policy at missing people, but it's a great result as well.
Thank you very much, Terry. Two great results there. Please let missing people know if you have any information that could help with the cases that you see on the programme, and the number is on your screen now.
Yeah, please keep those calls coming in, but we still need your help with cases like that of 14-year-old Andrew Gosden. He's been missing from his home in Doncaster for nearly 8 months now. His dad and grandmother will be here later, along with Rugby World Cup winner and star of Strictly Come Dancing, Matt Dawson. He's been helping the family in their search.
First, though, when this man disappeared, his son was just 3 years old. 12 years later, a teenage boy is still waiting for his dad to come home.
November the 15th is a day Yvonne Cross dreads every year. It was on this date 11 years ago that her only son Derek went missing. For over a decade, Yvonne has campaigned to keep Derek's story in the news. Today, she's going to a police press conference. Derek's ex-partner Dina and his 15-year-old son Spencer are with her. Yvonne is going to make a public appeal for information that might just help them find out what's actually happened to Derek.
Please, Derek, come home. We all love you. You've got a wonderful son, and the main thing is your son loves you, like we all love you.
The Cross family are from Leicester. Born in 1970, Derek's the youngest.
Our Derek, he was a happy-go-lucky lad. He was the apple of his dad's eye because he used to do so many things. He used to go down to the Leicester City football match with him, you see, and all things like that. He was very loving. He was a wonderful lad. And then as he was growing up, he used to help us on the market and that. He done one store and we done the others. And then he met Dina.
Dina remembers first going with Derek.
I worked at a cafe in town, and he worked on the market with his mum and dad, and they used to come in every day for their burgers and chips and tea and stuff like that. So I think we'd arranged to meet some friends or something in a pub one night, and we went, and then we ended up going out clubbing and stuff, and that was it.
They got on really, really well. And when it was his 21st, they got engaged and everything like that down the Sportsman we had to do for them and everything.
A year later, their son Spencer arrives.
When he was born, he stayed with me all the way through that, and he was quiet and he was crying. I just remember him, and he was the first one to hold him, and I got some photos, but I could see that he was laying with me. So we spent a lot of time with him. He was dressing him and taking him out.
He was over the moon now, Derek was. You know, he was really over the moon with him. He was a loving father. and he doted on him. And he'd do anything for him.
For a while, family life's happy, but 3 years later, the young couple hits a rocky patch. Derek moves in with his parents to give Dina some space. He's gloomy about the future of their relationship.
He'd been to see Dina, see if they could patch it up. And he came round, he said, "No, it's no good, I can't, Mum." And he told his grandma that as well, you know. He said, "I can't." He said, I just can't go with her anymore."
Derek's spirits are low. He has little enthusiasm for a holiday in November with a group of lads from his local pub.
He came and told us that he was going to Benidorm for a week, and he didn't really want to go. And I don't know why, but he didn't really want to go. So I said, "Well, if you don't want to go, then don't go." He said, "Well, I've let my mates down."
Later, on Missing Live, Derek doesn't return from his Spanish holiday.
2 of his friends came and knocked at the door and said, "Desi's missed the flight."
And we'll be finding out what happens in the search for Derek later in the programme. But if you think you know anything about where he could be now, please call Missing People on 0500 700 700. Remember, calls from landlines are free, but mobile charges may vary.
Where is 41-year-old Kay Ziv? Now, she's been missing from Sidcup in Kent for 5 days now. She's 5'5" with a slim build, blue eyes and shoulder-length brown hair. The last time anyone saw her, she was wearing jeans and a dark top. If you've seen Kay or you know where she could be, please call Missing People on 0500 700 700. Calls are confidential and free from landlines, but mobile charges can vary.
On Friday, we caught up with a search for 14-year-old Andrew Gosden, who's been missing for nearly 8 months now. In a moment, we'll be joined by Andrew's dad and grandmother, but here's a reminder of what we know about the case so far.
Kevin and Glenys Gosden are searching for their son, Andrew. Their nationwide non-stop journey to find him has meant a demanding round of radio, press and TV interviews. On September the 14th last year, he should have been at school, but Andrew had other plans.
We just made an assumption that Andrew had come in from school and was either in his room or in our converted cellar room, and we just called him for tea, and then we realised that he wasn't in the house.
By 8 o'clock that evening, Andrew's still not home.
So we then got to the point of trying to contact school, and we were able to then find out that he'd never even turned up at school in the morning.
As that next hour progressed, we knew something wasn't right. And so we then kicked things into motion and we found the police.
The search for Andrew Gosden is now a top priority for South Yorkshire Police.
Andrew was categorised as a vulnerable, high-risk missing from home person due to his age and the circumstances in which he's gone missing, and this incident is being treated as a major incident. Andrew went missing obviously early in the morning when his parents had already left for work, and obviously he's then returned when he knows that there'll be no one in at the house. He's had the opportunity to change and to collect whatever items he's needed.
He must have gone to the cash till, got a couple of £100 out, and got a train to King's Cross.
£200 was the bulk of Andrew's savings. What was he planning?
We've spoken initially to the lady at the ticket office who sold Andrew the ticket, and interestingly he bought just a single ticket when a return would have only cost 50p more, which possibly indicates that he wasn't intending on coming back home.
Why has Andrew travelled to London? Officers trawl through hours of CCTV footage at King's Cross. They eventually find what they're looking for. Andrew is filmed leaving the station at 11:25 on Friday the 14th of September, the morning he went missing. From here, he simply disappears onto the streets of London. someone somewhere must know something. Is Andrew still in London? Do you know where he is? Well, Kevin, his dad, and his grandmother Val are here with us. Good morning to you. Thanks for coming in. Kevin, I know that you've been really proactive in this search, and because of this programme there have been sightings. How do you feel? Do you feel optimistic?
It gives us a lot of hope that people are recognising his face, that they're aware that he's out there, that he's missing, that we desperately want him back, that they're keeping their eyes open, they're taking the time and trouble to ring in. It does give us a lot of hope, yeah.
And I know, Val, it's been an extremely difficult 8 months. Just tell us a little bit about the sort of impact it's had on all of you.
It has been tough. Initially, the whole family rallied round. We went to different places, we put up posters to ask questions, including Greenwich Park, because we're from South East London. We knew he liked Greenwich Park, he liked all the museums and that. It has been tough that we've done all of this. We've done our best to support the family, and we are still at the same sort of position that we were at the start. People have been phoning in and saying they've sighted him, but these sightings so far have not produced Andrew, which is obviously what we would like to see.
Kevin, do you feel any closer to knowing at least why he went at this point or not?
Absolutely none. I mean, we've been over and over everything in our heads. Everything was so normal and relaxed at home. You know, the week before he was just painting the gate with me outside, and the day before we were playing a game together. There was just no hint that he was going to disappear. My favourite, best theory is still what I call the Reggie Perrin theory. He liked that comedy in particular. And that he simply looked ahead and thought, GCSEs, A-levels, degree, is this what I want for me? And kind of had a really early midlife crisis and felt, I don't want to do that conventional pattern. And the only way to exempt myself from that is to disappear. But we had no hint of it.
Val, you also have other grandchildren, don't you, as well? If you could see him, if you could talk to him, what would you say to him?
Well, the fact that the other grandchildren do know about him missing, and when a 9-year-old says to you, I still look out for him, Grandma, and the 6-year-old, when she sees the marathon, says, is anybody running for Andrew? Now, it's obviously affected them, and until we find Andrew and get things set more to normal, it's going to play a big part in our lives. We can't wake up every morning and feel everything is normal. It isn't. We still wake up and think, oh, Andrew, where are you?
OK. Val, Kevin, thank you very much for that. And if Andrew is out there, if you know where he is, anything about him, please call Missing People's Runaway Helpline, 0808 800 70 70. It's 0808 800 70 70. Calls are free and confidential. Mobiles may vary, and Kevin will be here with us again a little bit later.
Terry's still with us from Missing People. We got any more updates for us?
Yes, I have. Eddie Gibson from, I think, the appeal yesterday. He's the chap thought to be in Cambodia, possibly.
Yes.
We've had a few calls on him, about half a dozen calls on him.
Already? Well, that's just quite good.
Yeah, that's good. And unfortunately, though, a similar case of Danny Hall in Thailand. We've had no calls on him yet. So.
Yeah, of course, he was the other fella that was also travelling. Quite similar circumstances, aren't they? But you've not had anything on him? He's been missing since February, that one?
Nothing on Danny Hall, but as I say, we're hopeful for Eddie Gibson. Maybe have a few calls on that one.
OK, then. And very quickly, what about this head that you had in last week? I understand you might be getting some calls on that already.
Yeah, we're quite pleased because on that, the unidentified case of the man from Northampton in 2002, we have had a few calls already and a couple of names suggested, and police are looking into those.
Fantastic. Of course, there's some more forensic work that we're going to talk to you later on. It's all fascinating stuff, and we'll speak to you about that later. As usual, though, if you can help missing people with any of the cases you see today, please give them a call. The number's on your screen right now.
Next, the extraordinary story of a man who set out to look for the family he never knew. His search led him right back to his own doorstep.
Peter Foley is from Edinburgh. He's one of the first black footballers to play regularly in the English League and has an MBE for his work in race relations. Peter's had a happy life, but part of his identity has always been missing. He knows very little about his father, who left before he was born in 1944. All he knows for sure is that his father is African. His mother is a local Scottish girl who brought him up in this garden flat.
We were that close that there was never any problem. Now you sometimes think you're born black and you're an Irish. Never at any time did anybody mention about the colour of my skin. Everybody got the problem was still known as Wee Peter, and that was what was carried through. So really happy memories here. Like, I can honestly say family life was absolutely brilliant.
Peter then stumbles on a hint about his past.
Maybe when I was about 7 or 8, and I wasn't actually looking to see about father or anything. I was just being nosy. And I looked in a wardrobe and I found an envelope. And the envelope had a name, Albert Kutadankwa, and an address in Gold Coast. And I just made the assumption that that must be my father. But I never even then asked any questions, and nobody ever knew that I actually had got this letter. It was my little secret. It must have been hard for my mother because when I did ask, she wasn't sort of forthcoming, so I didn't want to push it.
Through football, Peter makes close friends. One of them is also the child of a mixed-race couple. He plays for a rival junior school at Craig-in-Tinney, a few miles away.
We became friends, so much so that after the first game, I asked him if he wanted to come at our house for a cup of tea and whatnot when the game finished. So for that day, that was it. And we've been friends ever since.
I don't know what's blended us together. There was something there where we were just pals. And that friendship has grown and grown as the years went on.
Peter and Dougie have more in common than just race. Neither boy knows his natural father, but unlike Peter, who lived with his birth mother, Dougie is adopted and has had no contact with either parent. Both boys have never wanted to trace their roots. It isn't until Peter's in his late 50s that he finally makes the decision to begin to search for his father.
I've got 2 boys, and I've got one of the boys who's a bit inquisitive. We knew he'd want to know the background of his family.
The family hire a genealogical researcher to help with their quest. They discover that Albert Kutadankwa, the name Peter saw in the envelope as a boy, is a doctor and is in fact Peter's father. Before long, he receives information about him from a contact in Ghana.
And through that, we ended up getting photos and all sorts about my father and family and whatnot, and it was unbelievable. And we also got, from that source, his obituary. He was dead, but he had obviously been a very nice person and did a lot of good work. I'm from somebody who has done something good, and that pleased me enough to say, well, no, the search that I've done is all I need to do.
Peter shares his news with his old mate Dougie. He couldn't have predicted the effect it has.
I just stopped. Stopped eating. My wife stopped eating. And Doreen looked at my face. She says, Dougie, what's wrong?
And we'll see what happens next for Peter later in the programme. Please email us at missing.live@bbc.co.uk if you're looking for someone or if you've been reunited with a friend or relative. You can also write to us. Remember that? At Missing Live, PO Box 63814, London N1 1HF. That's Missing Live, PO Box 63814, London N1 1HF.
Now to another case that really needs your help. Last September, 43-year-old Grant Duncan left his dad's house and caught a bus to Aberdeen Airport. It's thought he was planning to travel to Thailand from there. Well, Grant had talked about joining Buddhist monks in their protest in Burma before he left, but no one has seen or heard from him since. And his friends and family say this is very out of character. If you've seen Grant or know where he could be, please contact Grampian Police. That number is 0845 600 5700, or of course you can call Missing People.
A couple of weeks ago, we asked for your help to find 53-year-old Michael Hunter. There have been some new developments and the officer dealing with his case will be here shortly. But first, here's a reminder of what we know about Michael's disappearance. 53-year-old Mike Hunter from County Durham disappears on January the 24th this year. Mike's been depressed after recovering from cancer. He goes missing on the day of his mother's funeral. It's 4 days before there's any news. Then a woman calls from Walsingham, 22 miles northwest of the Hunters' home.
A gentleman fitting that description had been in earlier in the week asking for local information on the walks, and in particular the Bradley area of Walsingham. You know, he was all bundled up for the weather with his woolly hat and waterproof on, just like a typical walker that we get in all the time.
5 hours later, there's a second sighting, 12 miles from the first.
A phone call came in from a gamekeeper at Bollyhope near a place called Walsingham, which is West Durham, County Durham. And that gentleman had been out on the moor and had seen somebody who fitted the description we'd circulated of Michael Hunter.
Dozens of search and rescue volunteers are assembled on the moors above Durham.
We're out searching for Mr. Michael Hunter, and this follows a possible sighting of him on the fell. This is the area that we're going to search. We've got what we call a PLS, a point last seen, which is just here, which is about 1 kilometre from where we're currently located. We're going to focus the search on that area. Any luck down there, or is it...
No, we searched the gully.
Right.
Down to the first tree, there's no signs of life.
But after 36 hours, the operation is called off. They've still not found Mike. It's now 3 months since he's disappeared.
One of the big things on this is someone to share things with, and seeing we both like bird watching. I especially miss someone to go out with and to go walking and bird watching with, and just to share things we like together.
He was just always around. You know, we've always done things as kind of me, my mum and my dad, and it's really weird. They're just being two people.
And here with me now is Inspector Steve Ball, who's been dealing with Michael's case. Thanks for joining us. So what sightings have you had since we first appealed for Michael?
We've been very encouraged. We've had over 20 sightings of Michael, allegedly from the Cairngorms in Scotland, down through the north of England to Turkey, to a place called Tudugris.
As far afield as that. So how are these being sort of followed up and investigated then?
Well, we've acted quite quickly on a couple of sightings. One hospital at Motherwell, where a man matching Michael's description was apparently suffering from amnesia. Unfortunately, that wasn't him. We chased that up quite quickly. And also a couple walking in the Lake District, Grasmere and Rydalwater. They actually picnicked with Michael and took his photograph. But unfortunately, they've not rang us back. So
hang on, so these are two people that think they actually, since the appeal's been running, have had a picnic with this guy?
Yes, that's right. About the 24th of April, they rang us initially after the programme went out, and we're having difficulty getting hold of them. We'd like to see this photograph so we can either identify Michael or eliminate that from the inquiry.
Well, we really need those people to get in touch, don't we? Obviously, because you could have some photographs there that crucial potential evidence. Just going back, you mentioned a possible lead in Turkey that's come about. How would you go about following that up?
Well, we need to contact the person who made the call. Apparently, a walker matching Michael's description has been in the area for a few weeks, so we may need the help of the Serious Organised Crime Agency to follow that up for us. But we are following up these lines, and we're encouraged by the calls from this programme.
Okay. You mentioned there that there was a walker link in Turkey. Obviously, it's publicised that Michael was a very keen walker himself, and presumably that comes up with some real challenges for you because of just where do you start pinpointing the search?
Absolutely. I mean, we lose a window of opportunity quite often because some of the calls are quite late, and people have walked allegedly past Michael you know, in post offices, along A roads, etc., right up and down the country. So we would ask people to ring up as soon as possible. Let us be the judge on the quality of the information, and we'll follow that up.
That's a very good point. And you know, we just want to encourage the people to just keep calling in. You've had 20 so far. Let's hopefully we'll get some more. And this has sort of reignited this appeal, hasn't it? So best of luck with the appeal, and hopefully we get some positive news soon. And of course, if you have any information on where Michael could be, then please call Missing People on 0500 700 700.
Back now to the case of Derek Cross. Someone is convinced they've seen Derek in Benidorm trying to make his way back to his hotel. What happens next remains a mystery.
Derek Cross is from Leicester. Dina remembers first going with Derek in 1992, and they have a son. But just 3 years later, they split up. Early November 1996, he heads to Benidorm for a holiday with his friends.
He liked his nightclubbing. He could dance and he could sing. He used to love karaoke and everything.
The popular resort has over 4 million visitors every year. On November the 15th, Derek and his friends go out on a bar crawl. The resort's packed.
They went to the nightclub Café de Benidorm, which is in the main street in Benidorm.
Around 2 in the morning, the group leaves the nightclub, but Derek's separated from his friends. They lose sight of him in the crowds and think he's gone back to the hotel. The next morning, his friends go to his room, but there's no sign of Derek. By the end of that day, they report him missing to Spanish police. 2 days later, it isn't Derek who turns up at his mum's house back in Leicester.
2 of his friends came and knocked at the door and said, "Our Desi's missed a flight." And we couldn't find him. I said, "You what?"
My friend Tracy, who was girlfriend of one of the lads that he went away with, telephoned me, I think it's about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, to tell me that he'd not come back and he'd got his luggage back but he'd gone missing. We didn't know what had happened.
His family report Derek missing to the police in Leicester. Officers interview his friends and appeal for information. They discover something that deepens the mystery of what happened in Spain. An English policeman who was on holiday at the resort when Derek disappeared comes forward. He's convinced he saw Derek on the beach the day after he didn't return to his hotel.
This police inspector from Yorkshire saw him and he asked for the Europa Centre and they directed him, but he looked tired and a bit, out of it.
Was it Derek on the beach that afternoon, 15 hours after he'd last been seen with his friends at Café Benidorm? The joint Spanish and British police investigation is still open. But despite further unconfirmed sightings, Derek remains one of the 8,000 people who go missing in Spain each year. It's now 12 years since he disappeared, and it's still painful for the Cross family. Derek's son Spencer last saw his father when he was 3. He's now 15.
I just want him to have a dad, just to have that chance to walk up and see his dad, go to the pub with his dad, go and play pool, and he's into snooker, he's into football, he wants to go and he goes with his mate's dads, he wants his dad to go with.
The most difficult is thinking like where he could be and what he's doing, or if he's alive or is he dead. It's a bit difficult really. It's like sometimes like Christmases I don't think about it. Get upset a bit.
To me, they would have been really close, and I don't think he's had that chance. And he wants someone to be a dad because he's never really had a dad.
It might be, so please call Missing People on 0500 700 700. Calls are confidential and free from landlines, but mobile costs may vary. Terry's still with us from Missing People, and you've done some work on Derek's case, haven't you, with age progression? How does that work?
That's right. Well, basically, with any long-term case, we can do an age progression, which basically means updating an image to show how they might look today.
So obviously there's quite a time gap from when Derek went missing. I think we've got an image of what he looked like at the time, or near enough at the time. We can see it here. Perhaps not the clearest picture, and is this what you had to work from?
Yeah, we had a few different images. Unfortunately, most of them weren't overly great. They're family snapshots, which is very common for what we work on, and obviously that can create difficulties, the quality of the image. But also with Derek, it's been 12 or so years, so although it sounds a long time, going from a mid-20s to late 30s age, it's not that different. So a lot of the changes are fairly subtle.
Sure, it's not as drastic as, say, Catrice Lee, which we showed, which was going from an absolute toddler to an adult now. I think we can see the image that you've created now with your technology, and we just talk us through that. You've given them sort of modern hairstyle.
Yeah,
and
basically given modern hairstyle, a few more facial lines, add maturity into the face. Of course, the trouble is we don't know whether he's gained weight or done anything different to his appearance, of course, so we are sort of using some of those as estimates, but hopefully it will remind people that he won't necessarily look like the images that we've got of original photos.
This is sort of almost an expert estimation, isn't it, almost? Yeah. Is there anything that doesn't change then?
Well, not much. I mean, most people's faces do obviously change with age. The eyeballs won't move, and the teeth, but obviously with the teeth, you might get some discoloration. Again, you don't know if there's been any dental changes, but generally speaking, it's a lot of subtle changes in the skin, the texture, wrinkles, that sort of thing with an adult. OK, well, it's
another fascinating line of work, and best of luck with the appeal. Remember, if you can help with any of the cases you see on today's programme, please call Missing People. The number is on your screen now.
And thank you for your calls. Already this morning we're getting calls coming in on the case of 14-year-old Andrew Gosden. Here with me now are Andrew's dad, Kevin, and rugby star Matt Dawson to tell us more about what's happening with the case. Morning. Just tell us, Matt, you are involved in helping with this search. Why particularly did Andrew's case sort of strike you?
I think it was, there's just no reason for why Andrew disappeared, and I think that probably strikes a chord with a lot of people across the nation. It doesn't matter whether I don't have any children, but it strikes a chord with me. Whether you do have children, there was just no apparent reason for Andrew to disappear, and so I felt it necessary. I was doing some work with Sport Relief and got introduced to Kevin, to Glenys and the family, and we've got to do whatever we possibly can to get Andrew back.
We were talking a little bit about, Kevin, where you thought he may be. I mean, do you think it's the case that somebody might have taken him in, or what is it?
All we can do is speculate on what might have bothered him in the first place, or where he might be, how he might have chosen to look after himself. We just have no idea, and it's so worrying that you imagine all the worst scenarios, and some of the things you think of are more positive as well. Maybe somebody is looking after him,
And I know it has had a massive impact on the whole family, particularly you personally as well, hasn't it?
It's been the worst time ever in my life, certainly. A while before Christmas, I got to the point where I was so despairing and so missing him that I actually had a nervous breakdown and tried to take my own life. And unfortunately spent a number of weeks in hospital as a result of that. And I'm still really in the process of recovery from that.
So if somebody's watching who perhaps knows Andrew, if Andrew's watching him, you himself, you'd like that message, you'd like him to know that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. He must know that we love him, that we care about him. We always have done. That's how much I miss him. And I would just love him. I'd give anything if he'd just pick up the phone and call me. Anything.
OK. And Kevin, you've been really proactive in this search. Matt, it does seem striking, doing this programme, how much families have to do, in fact, themselves when they're looking for their loved ones.
Yeah, I sort of gave myself a little bit of a ticking off. Because too many times I've walked the street where I live in West London, and I'm sure there are millions of people the same. Just walk the street and they'll see a sign, or they'll see a picture in the shop window or on a lamppost, and they never take it on board. You know, I will never ever forget the face when I saw Andrew. You know, it just won't leave me. And I think just tiny little bits of effort like that, if people can make that little bit of effort, you know, the image will stick in their mind. And if you bump into them, if you see them, then there are numbers that these people can call.
OK, thank you both. Kevin, thank you very much. And there are calls coming in this morning, so best of luck with all of that. And despite the fact that there have been calls, of course, Andrew has still not been found, so your call will count. Please, if you know where he is, get in touch with Missing People, 0500 700 700.
Earlier, we told you about Peter Foley. He's been searching for the family he's never met. Then, a letter arrives.
Peter Foley from Edinburgh has traced the history of his birth father that he never knew. He decides to share his news with his oldest friend, Dougie.
We sat at the table and I told them the story. And at the finishing I said, and by the way, my father's called Dr. Albert Kubina Kutadankwa. And the conversation just, poof.
I just stopped. Stopped eating. My wife stopped eating. And Doreen looked at my face, she says, Dougie, what's wrong?
Dougie and Nancy just stopped eating. And the looks in their faces, and I thought, well, Doreen looked at me and said, what have I done? Have I said something wrong here?
And it took me a minute and I went, that's my father.
The two friends have always been close, like brothers, but this discovery is almost too much to take in.
Well, the conversations then went that his father was called Albert Kutadankwa. He was Nigerian, he'd got an Oxford Blue. My father was Ghanaian, he'd was at Edinburgh University, he'd got a Blue for playing hockey. So they were both sports-minded. So it got us in a way where we thought, well, we're going to have to do something to find this out, one way or the other. Because it was too much a fluke for it not to be something there.
It seems unlikely for their fathers to have exactly the same name and not be the same man. But because there are differences in nationality and where he went to university, Peter and Dougie are still in some doubt. They decide to have their DNA tested to make sure it isn't just wishful thinking.
But I knew, and I says to Nancy, my wife, I says, I don't care what comes back, I know that Peter is my brother.
They've seen an advert for DNA testing by a company based at Glasgow University Hospital. They're sent a mouth swab pack for a saliva sample, which they do. They then return it by post. The company runs their tests, and 3 weeks later, the results come through. Peter and Dougie are in for a shock.
The result came back and it was negative, and we just couldn't believe it.
And when it came back negative, I was disappointed. I was very, very disappointed.
It caused a bit of problems and upset because in our minds we were totally convinced that we were half-brothers.
Peter and Dougie call off the celebrations they've got planned and try and put their disappointment behind them. But there's more.
A month or so later, got a phone call from this doctor in Glasgow saying there was good news and there was bad news. The bad news was they made a mistake. So the good news is Mr. Johnson and Mr. Foley are siblings. And that, well, I started to cry.
It's incredible news for Dougie. Peter's away, taking stock of his earlier disappointment.
And it was Dougie's wife Nancy saying that she had got word from Glasgow University and they'd made a terrible error, and that it was actually a positive result. And when you see the results now, it's unbelievably positive. You couldn't say, well, it's iffy. It couldn't be any other way. And we got the information back on my birthday, so I had double celebrations that night.
Every time I think about it, I was going to say it makes the hair stand up my neck, but no, my hair, his hair's standing up.
It seems extraordinary now that with less than a year between the brothers, no one has ever spotted a family likeness.
This is our father.
I've got the same eyes.
Mm-hmm. Jenny says we've got the same eyes. Not with the nose, no. Not with the nose.
I've got the Foley nose.
You've got the Foley nose. And this thing's starting to recede. And I'm like, there, that's what happened to me, just I'm bald. There's times we do get a wee bit emotional, you know, when there's certain things and that. But I think it's maybe not sunk in right, you know. All right, it's 2 years now, but we talk about things and I still get tears in my eye, he gets tears in his eyes, you know, talking about different things. But we're still the same two boys.
That's a brilliant ending for Peter and Dougie, but there are still lots of people that you can help reunite. Here's a reminder of just some of them.
Yes, 37-year-old dad Derek Cross was last seen in Benidorm over 12 years ago. His mum and his 15-year-old son really need to know what's happened to him.
14-year-old Andrew Gosden still missing despite lots of sightings in the London area. We know Andrew was spotted on CCTV at King's Cross Station last September, but where is he now?
53-year-old Michael Hunter, he's been missing since January this year. Michael's a keen walker. It is possible that he may be on the North Pennines, and we're getting calls from you about that this morning.
Grant Duncan was last seen leaving his dad's house 8 months ago. He said he was heading to Aberdeen Airport and it's thought he may have gone to Thailand from there. No one's heard from him since. If you can help with any of these cases, please call Missing People. The number's on your screen right now.
That's all we have time for you for today. Thanks again for all your calls. It's only Tuesday. Already this week, 2 more people have been found as a direct result of your information. On tomorrow's programme, we'll have updates on all of our appeals. Plus, he walks out of a psychiatric ward wearing only pyjamas and disappears onto the streets of Liverpool. 46-year-old James Morell hasn't been seen for almost 3 years.
And 14-year-old Carly Willets becomes another of Britain's runaways when she disappears in Eastbourne after some problems at home. Can you help bring her back?
6 people have been found in the series so far. We're still looking for Andrew Gosden. You saw his dad earlier talking to us, telling us how it's affected him. If you know where he is, please call. We have found 6 people because of your calls. Every call matters. Remember that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the same time tomorrow. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.